Scott Blubaugh, welcome to the Daily Social Distancing Show.
Hey, glad to be here. It's my pleasure.
I'm so fascinated about this topic, and I'm so glad to have you on the show because, as a farmer and as someone who's working with farmers, you can answer questions that a lot of Americans have about food but don't even realize. Let's start with the most basic one. Right now, we're hearing about food shortages across the country, especially meat shortages. But at the same time, we're hearing that farmers have cows, farmers have pigs, farmers have the animals. What exactly is going on?
Well, I'll tell you, it's kind of a complex story. So, in the early days of the coronavirus, we saw a distribution problem, and that was purely the distribution centers, such as Walmart and the big retail chains, just couldn't get enough of the product to the stores in time. They couldn't get it on the shelves in time. The second phase of that, we saw our schools, being shut down, restaurants, and all the institutional buyers of our food products, they're all shut down. So the supply chain was really disrupted in that aspect, in that the processors really haven't adapted to the new way of doing business, where most of our production, we're buying our groceries in the grocery store instead of eating out or eating at school or eating at
Right.
work or whatever. So now the virus itself has got into these processing facilities. The workers are getting sick. And so especially in the meat industry, in the meat processing centers that we have around the country, and I'm talking about the very large corporate centers, those workers work, I've been in those facilities, and they work elbow to elbow, literally all day long, thousands of workers in these facilities. And so when the virus gets in there, it spreads like crazy. And so they've had to idle. A lot of those plants have been shut down, or some are working at 50% capacity. So you're having a lot of different problems there. We have plenty of cattle. We have plenty of pigs, plenty of chicken, plenty of wheat, soybeans, and corn that we make. All these commodities are used to make the food that we buy at the grocery store. Now, we have plenty of those out here on the farm. That's not the problem. The problem is getting them processed into food that you can buy in the grocery store.
Yeah, that's really interesting, and I'd like us to try and break this down because I was truly surprised by how complex the food distribution network has become. Because gone are the days when it was just the farmer makes the food, the people get the food from the farmer. I mean, you can go to a farmer's market, but for the most part, that has become much more complicated. And so the first part, as you said, was that we forget that a lot of the food that is made doesn't go to a grocery store. Schools buy it, hotels buy it, businesses buy it, and it's not packaged the same. The second thing, which is really interesting for me, is how centralized a lot of food processing seems to be in America. Because you had a few meat processing plants shut down, and then all of a sudden it seemed like there was a meat shortage all over the country. What does that say about America's distribution in terms of the way like food is processed or food is doled out across the country? Is that a sustainable system?
No, it's not. And so for the last 40 years, we have seen a consolidation in the food processing industry. And mergers, acquisitions have just gone on like crazy, really for 40 years. And we're at the point now where there's only four major packers in the United States, and three of those are foreign owned, by the way. And so there's actually only one U.S. company still left. Anyway, because of this consolidation in the marketplace, they've developed a system that what I'd call just-in-time delivery system, similar to manufacturers use to just-in-time get the ingredients that they need, or the different components they need in manufacturing. The food system is basically set up the same way now. So everything is just in time. So when any one segment of the food system is broke down, and in this case, it's the workers in these processing plants that are getting sick, then the
Right.
whole system it just fails. Many of us have expressed our concerns about this for a long time. And until the coronavirus hit, it's now showing the world how fragile this system is and that it's really not sustainable.
Right. I think it's also been really disheartening to see how hard this has hit the farming community, because you read these stories and you see these stories of farmers who say, hey, I'm now in a situation where my farm is still producing as it should be, but I have nowhere to put this food. I have nowhere to send this food. And then we have millions and millions of Americans saying we're desperate for food, but we can't get the food. And you realize why the system is almost broken, because there's very few places that connect the people to their food. For farmers, what is going on with the farmers that you speak to mentally? How are they doing? I mean, May happens to be Mental Health Awareness Month, and I know that there's been a rise in farmers committing suicide and really struggling with what's happening, almost coronavirus being the last straw. What have you experienced?
We're experiencing that as well here. So we actually just a few weeks ago set up a hotline number, suicide hotline number here in Oklahoma for our farmers and ranchers. And we have 3 trained farmers and ranchers that will go out and visit with them and get them to the help they need and all. So we are seeing calls come in now that we haven't seen in a long, long time. Probably since the 1980s, this is now becoming a much bigger problem for us.
It feels like America's entire food supply is being interrupted, and I think a lot of people may not know or may not understand how, farmers essentially, this business has become more about commodities than about food. The prices are dictated by global forces. It's now become a game between different nations and such. But at the end of the day, there's still a core concept, and that is humans need food to survive, and farmers are the people who are growing that food for the humans to eat in order to survive. We hope that the world will evolve, and we hope that there'll be lessons that we've learned from coronavirus that we take forward and hopefully improve the way we exist. If you were looking at the world through the lens of the farmers and thinking of people who need food that is as healthy as possible, what would you suggest we change in the world going forward?
We need to really start enforcing antitrust laws here in the United States. Back around the turn of the century, President Theodore Roosevelt did his famous trust busting. The first corporations that he busted up was the meatpacking industry over 100 years ago. And now we've evolved really back to that same position where they have total market power, total control over the food supply. And we really need to go back, bust up these large meat processors into smaller units, and we'll have more competition than in the marketplace for the animals that we raise on our farm. The consumer will have more choices. But if we had more regional and small processors back again, like we once had in here, we wouldn't be near as vulnerable to these type of black swan events, you might say. So that's the avenue we need to go down. I know the President Trump has asked the Justice Department to investigate this antitrust issues that are going on in the meat packing industry. But I do want your viewers to know something. So I'm a cattle rancher, right. And I raise wheat and soybeans as well on my place. But since the virus hit, so we weren't getting a very good price for our products before the virus, but since the virus, the prices have went down dramatically. We've seen our live cattle prices decline about 38% over this period with the virus. But at the very same time, we've seen retail beef prices that the consumer pays at the store just absolutely go through the roof.
Right.
At the very same time. And it's about time the government steps in and starts enforcing the antitrust laws of this country and put some regulations back in place and limit this really bad behavior.
Well, I will say, I mean, as somebody who's been reading up on it and always trying to think of how we get back to a world where people are eating healthier food so that we can just be healthier human beings, I hope that some of your measures are looked at by people in power. Thank you so much for taking the time, Scott, and good luck as you ride out this crisis. Thank you very much, Scott. Have a good one.
Thanks, Trevor. You bet.